Welcome back to the Perks Recap Podcast. With me, as always, is Al. Party on, Al.
Yes, sir. Party on, Craig. That's awesome. Wow, I love it. Flashback. I love
If you know, you know.
it. That's right.
Anyway, um, that was totally unplanned, by the way. I just realized that, as I said, with me, as always, is Al. I was like, wait a minute, that totally plays into it. But anyway,
I love it. It's a good
uh,
thing we share a similar reference base.
week 15. Week 15, another interesting week in the NFL. We did pretty good in our picks once again. We've been on a pretty good run the last few weeks.
Yeah, really.
So let's jump right in, right off the bat. Um, the Rams. The Rams over the 49ers, 12-6. I mean, oh, what a dreck blah game.
This was awful, and it sucked because it ended up not costing me, thank goodness. But I had Cooper Cup
With the
in.
big zero, right? He had zero?
Yep, and I made the playoffs in 6 out of my 7 fantasy leagues, and I had Cooper on 2 of those teams that made the playoffs, and he started in both and got me 0. Luckily, I ended up not losing either of those games, but it was ugly heading from Thursday to Sunday. I was sad.
Yeah. I mean, that's because he played. He was out there. He just didn't get anything, which is odd.
And I made the critical mistake, and I'm too old and have been doing this too long to make this mistake, Craig. I didn't look at the weather.
Oh,
And it was a monsoon for the entire first half.
yes. Which played into the score, obviously.
Sure
But
did.
I tell you, the fall of San Francisco is real. It's here, and there's no stopping it now.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you
They are
100%.
they are as dead as a drum. They are done. Donezo.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah, that's the question now becomes: Are they? Is this is this the end of this particular era of the Niners? Do they have to rebuild and scrap and start over, or do they just retool a little bit and come right back next year? I'm really not sure.
I'm not sure either. There's a few teams like that, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. And there's specific players within that you have those questions about too. Front and foremost being Debo Samuel.
Yep, yep. Um, there was what was I going to say? Oh yeah, we both got this right. We were both correct on this one. And yeah, do you have any stats on this one?
Yeah, it's not real pretty, but
No, yeah. By the way, with the stats, I'm thinking, um, and we do a lot of this podcast on the fly, as anybody who's listening to this knows.
yeah,
Um, I'm thinking if there's something that stands out in the stats, reel them off. But if they're just, a running back ran 16 times for 658 yards, there's no we don't even have to mention that. We just mentioned he got a few yards. Like we could kind of gloss over it a little bit. We don't have to
yeah,
go through every single guy.
that makes perfect sense. Okay. Well, with that in mind, there's really only 3 things of note from the Rams, and that's Stafford 16 to 27 for 160, no touchdowns, no turnovers.
Right.
Um, Kyron Williams 29 carries for 108 yards.
That kid, I really like him.
I do too. I underestimated him. I said that earlier this season in the podcast, way earlier because I figured it out pretty quickly. But I definitely underestimated him. I ended up with him on 0 fantasy teams, which means I was clearly not willing to draft him at the necessary time. And he's been an incredible fantasy asset and a great real life running back. So yeah, I'm absolutely with you.
Yep.
And then the only other stat note, other than Cooper Cup's bagel, is Puka Nakua 7 catches for 97 yards. And then
Oh, okay. Yep.
and Puka's just a beast, man. If that we talked about what receiver you would want for the next 5 years last week,
Yep.
and I don't know if I'm quite willing. I think I should be. The only reason let me put it this way. See if you agree with this. The only reason that he is not in that cluster of top 7 or 3 to 7, however many receivers you want to put in there with CD, Jamar Chase. Justin Jefferson. I would put AJ Brown in there. Some people might not. Whoever you put in there.
Yep.
He should be in that category, but the only reason he isn't quite yet for me is because he's been a little injury prone his first 2 years. How are
Yeah,
you
I
looking?
agree. I
Okay.
agree. And but I think though he has clearly taken over. He's the number one receiver now, and Cup has clearly regressed a little here, and he is clearly the number two.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. 100% accurate. Yeah, man. Okay. So, anything, let's see what's worth looking at on the Niners side. So, you got Brock Purdy continuing to just fall apart here. 14 of 31. This looks like an Anthony Richardson stat line. 14 of 31 for 142 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick.
Yeah, that's just not going to get it done.
Now, it was terrible weather conditions, but the whole second half was dry. So I don't know. You can't blame it all on that by any means. And the other quarterback played in the rain, too. Nothing of note, really. The only other stat of note, George Kittle, 4 catches for 61 yards. Nobody else did anything really noteworthy.
All right. Plus, I think this will help move the podcast along so we don't have 2 hour long review shows.
I think that's like the best thing we could have cut out. I think it's a great idea.
All right, let's move on to game number 2 of the week that we're going to move right to and get out of the way. The Cowboys over Carolina, 30-14. I actually picked Carolina because I was really impressed with how well they've been playing the last few weeks. Playing the Chiefs close, playing the Eagles kind of close, but you know, they were in it at least for a little while. And I was liking what I was seeing from them. And then they come out and at home and completely lay an egg in Dallas and made Dallas look better than they've looked in months.
Unbelievable, man. Carolina, we talked about it last week. Carolina was a favorite in a game for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah,
And they
and
lose.
that's what you get for making them a favorite.
Exactly. And they
They
lose
lose
by
by 16
16.
points.
Ah, priceless, man. Go to town, man. And then I got some stats for you whenever you're ready.
Well, I mean, the kid who filled in for Overshone, and I wrote his name down and I can't find it now. But we know Overshone got hurt for the year. We were all bummed out about that. And I, in particular, obviously with my team, and I forgot the kid's name. Damn it! But he actually played really well. So I don't know what kind of linebacker factory they've got going up there, but they're spitting them out, and whoever they put in there has been playing really, really well.
Is it Marist Liafau?
It might be. I think it is actually. Now that yes, that's why I
Okay.
had to write it down because it's not uncommon name. It's a weird name.
Yes, definitely. That's got to be it. That's got to be it. All right, cool, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
Did
good
he?
lord,
I don't
dude.
know if you have any stats on him, but I think he led the team with like 9 tackles.
And a sack and a half, apparently. If I don't know if
Yeah,
that
yeah. Like
is
look
that
at
right.
that line. I mean, and he's filling in. He's Overshone's replacement, but I mean that's basically what Overshone was doing every game.
That's crazy. Like, man, I don't. Yeah, what is it with this? Do they have a line? Like, is it like Eagles with offensive? Like, well, actually, the Cowboys till this year maybe did it were like that with offensive line for a long time. The Eagles lost 2 starters during the game this week and just chucked a couple people out there and kept on trucking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's wild.
But I liked what I saw on defense. By the way, Trayvon Diggs has had season-ending surgery, so
Unbelievable.
the three starting corners have played together in one game in 2 years.
Unbelievable, dude. I saw that. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
So that's great. But otherwise, the defense still looked really good. Parsons had 2 sacks.
Yeah.
I
Beast.
mean, just they look good, but you got to consider the competition. Although, like I've been saying, the last few weeks they were a little kind of impressing me a little bit. But Bryce Young looked lost again, and yeah, they just went in there and kicked their ass, and I'm a little surprised by it because another thing too, Chuba Hubbard, they're running, they're terrible against the run, and Chuba Hubbard's been eating people up, and he didn't really do much.
That was surprising. I'm with you 100%. Yeah, by the way, 10 carries for 32 yards. I mean,
I mean, that's nothing.
that might be his. I didn't look at the stats, but that's got to be, if not his worst, one of his worst outings of the season because he's had a hell of a year.
Yeah, and Rico Dowdle, another 100-yard game. This is the third in a row. Thank God they are just giving him the ball, just feeding it to him. And Cooper Rush, he looked really good. He made some really nice throws. CeeDee Lamb made the ridiculous falling behind him backward touchdown thing that weird catch he made
Yeah,
for the
yes,
touchdown.
yes,
He was falling on his back and kind of put his arm out and just kind of rolled up on his arm.
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, totally, man. That was awkward looking but effective.
Hey, they all count the
Oh
same,
man,
right?
exactly, man. Oh yeah, no, it's unbelievable, dude. And there's a few teams in the league that are having quarterback issues that wouldn't mind having Cooper Rush as their backup right now.
I tell you, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep him, to be honest, because he's showing out again, and every time he's gotten an extended opportunity, he's done really, really well. The first game this year was wonky, but after that, he's been fine.
Yeah, no, he's been very good. He really has. He's been everything you want a backup quarterback to be. You know.
Yep. So, all right, that's all I got on that. So you got some stats, or you got some thoughts on this game too?
Yeah, man, tons of stats. So Cooper Rush was 18 to 29 for 214, three touchdowns, no picks. Beautiful. Rico, you mentioned how good he was. 25 carries for 149 yards. I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
And while we're on Rico, let me do a quick sidetrack here and ask you about this because the most popular selection currently in
I
mock
know.
drafts. Okay, and what do you think? Because for the
Yes.
people that aren't complete nerds like us and don't watch mock drafts while the season's still happening, what we're talking about is the Cowboys have been given Gianti. What is it? A Sean Gianti something? The
Is it Ashton?
Ashton Gianti, the Boise State running back, who probably should have won the Heisman.
Yes. And because of where they're picking, which is not going to be like top five,
Mm-hmm.
I subscribe to you can't take a running back in the top five.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just would never sign on for that because they're not going to be there. They're probably going to be in the 10 to 12 area. I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. I would actually do it. I would take him.
It's interesting. I don't, honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, Dowdle's been so impressive this year that it just seems like a weird way to spend to allocate your resources, going, just adding. But then again, Detroit did it a couple of years ago, and it sure worked out pretty well for them. So,
Yeah, I mean, and, they've got other picks. I would do it because he could be, like really, really special, like generational, like Saquon, or like he could be that good. Like he's freaking phenomenal. I mean, he's big, but he's got like 4.3 speed. I mean, my God.
yeah, he looks like the real deal for sure, and it's just. You know, and
But
I'm always a little. I've always been since the NFL has started devaluing running backs. I've always been I've been a little more on the other side of that. The it got real stupid. Like the height of it was when the Cowboys extended Zeke for $80 million or whatever they did, and that was
yeah,
turned
that
out to
that
be
that,
just
that was dumb.
yeah, that was obviously the worst of them, and it changed everything in the league for forever after that. Or at least for the last 5 years since that deal. Um, and I've always been on the running back side. Like, when the Eagles signed Barkley, I was fine with it. And, you forget what happened since. I would have, even if he was just solid, I would have been fine with it. But, uh, but on this one, man, if I was the Cowboys, I'd probably go a different direction. But I fully understand what you're saying, so I
Yeah,
wouldn't
like
argue one way
I
or the
mean,
other.
I'm not even saying I definitely would do it. I'm just saying if they did it, I probably would be okay with it.
And that's exactly. I would look at it like that too. I'm 100% with you on that. 100%.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
not like pulling forward or really wishing for, but if it happened, fine.
Yeah, I dig that. That makes perfect sense to me because who would be that sad to have a player like that on your team? But also, it might be nice to have a center or a guard replace Zach Martin or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
So yeah, okay, cool. A little sidetrack there, but I thought that was warranted. Now, only other stats of note: Jalen Coker for the Panthers had 4 catches for 110 yards. He had that big bomb for a touchdown.
yep,
Bryce Young went back to being Bryce Young, 19 for 28, 219 yards, a touch, and 2 picks, three rushes for 12 yards and a touchdown. And CeeDee Lamb, 9 catches for 116 yards and a touch. And then the only other one is the Cowboys defense, 6 sacks, 2 picks, 2 fumble recoveries. That tightens
yeah,
them by 16 points.
Yeah, they played really really well on defense.
That's the defense. That's the kind of outing a lot of people thought they were getting because Dallas was one of the top two or three fantasy defenses drafted this offseason.
Oh yeah, because they keep leading the last 3 years in a row. They led the league in turnovers.
Yeah. And it
But
just, obviously stuff happened this year and it didn't pan out that way. But that's what people thought they were drafting finally.
yeah,
All right, cool. I think that's all I got on stats.
okay, let's move on.
You got it.
Kansas City over Cleveland, 21-7. They finally covered, but
Yeah.
it still wasn't. It wasn't a complete massacre. I mean, 21-7. They handled them. Fine, they handled them the way they should. Oh, real quick, I'm sorry to go back to the previous
No,
game.
no problem.
Dallas and Carolina,
Yeah.
23 penalties.
Oh my God. I didn't catch that. Wow.
Dallas beat them by that much and played that well, as we're talking about, and had 14 penalties.
That's crazy, man. I watched that game and I didn't catch that. I mean, I knew
Yeah,
it felt like there were penalties and I knew it wasn't a light game, but I didn't realize how bad it was. That's something else. Wow.
23, and Dallas had 14 and still won by 16 points.
Incredible. Incredible.
I think that says more about Carolina than anything.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It was a really poor performance by Carolina, and it shows you that Dallas is not that bad. Like they're actually still in playoff contention, which is
Yeah,
is crazy.
they're not. They're not any threat, but yeah, they're not a complete dumpster fire, as we
No,
like to say.
they're like firm, like mid muck to go back to our mid season thing that we did.
Yes, yeah. I would
Maybe
say
even
they're
upper
yeah.
muck. Man, they're
They're
somewhere in that
they're
mix. They're in the
they're
muck.
they're muck worthy. All right.
Whatever they are, they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Me too. I mean, at that point, they were losing every game, and they just looked horrible. But for whatever, like I said, Cooper Rush, he's just turned it around. He looks really good.
They
I mean, not
stabilized it.
really good, but he looks good enough for now.
Given the context of everything, he looks amazing. I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay, back to this game. Kansas City defeats Cleveland, like I said, 21-7. They finally did cover, but it wasn't 35-10 or anything. It was no big offensive explosion. 21 points is 20. I mean, that's about what they're getting every week, and they got the same amount. It's just that Cleveland couldn't do anything against their defense. But their offense still, I mean, 21 points. They've got to be one of the, I would say they're probably middle of the pack or maybe even lower than that in terms of points scored this year.
You know what?
They're not
I'll see if I
scoring
can
much
find that
more.
while we're talking.
Yeah, they're not scoring much more than 20 a game. I mean, they're really not.
No, no, no. I'm with you. They have not been an offensive juggernaut by any means.
But, you know, like I said, they did handle their business. They beat the bad team they were supposed to. I had it 20-13, and you had it 23-10. So we were right in the same kind of general area of where it actually ended up. We actually gave Cleveland a little bit more. Oh, no, you had 23-20. I'm sorry.
What did I have?
23-20.
Oh, that's right. Because I remember that's right. Because I finally decided not to pick them to cover the spread, and then they did.
And they did. In the previous 3 weeks, you picked them to cover the spread, and they didn't.
Isn't that so funny, man? I picked them to cover the spread a lot this year, and they did not much.
um, yeah, I mean, Cleveland's just playing the string out. Winston is doing Winston things. Is he got benched? If I am not, if I'm not wrong here, I'm pretty sure he got pulled out of the game.
Well, I was waiting for this to come up, and it's a sad day in the NFL, Craig, because not only did he get benched in that game, but he's officially been yanked. And Dorian Thompson Robinson, I believe, is the correct name. I tried to finally learn it since he's going to be starting this week. The
Yep.
three named guy is getting the start this week, so the Jameis run is over for now.
Yeah, he's
He
fun,
just
but you can't win with him.
he just
But the
throws so
thing
many
is,
inter.
what are they even bothering? I mean, might as well have fun because they ain't winning anything anyway. What does it matter?
I know, I know. The stat I saw though was that he'd thrown 8 interceptions in the last shoot. What was it? Last 4 games or something like that.
Yeah.
So it just gets to be, you know what I mean? Like, listen, I like Jameis as much as anybody. Like, he amuses me. I get a kick out of him. I like him. But man, there's just there comes a point where you just got to be like, dude. And if you're benching him for what you've seen from Dorian Thompson Robinson, which is absolute garbage, then you know it got bad. So I feel for him. I hope we see him again, but I do understand why they did it.
Yep.
Now to go back, believe it or not, the Chiefs are not as bad in points per game as I thought. They are 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They are 12th at 23.5 points a game.
Okay. Okay. A little better than I thought too. I was thinking middle, and maybe a little lower middle, like high teens.
Me too.
But okay. All right. So they aren't quite as bad.
Yeah, they just pull points out of their butt while they look like crap a lot.
Right.
Oh,
Well,
and speaking,
the thing is, while they're scoring 21 and 24, 26, 27 points a game or whatever, they're never scoring, like a three. They never throw a complete stinker in there. That's always in the 17 to 24 range.
that's a great point. Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, oh, and while we're talking quarterback news from that game, the other big news was Wentz had a high ankle sprain, but then practiced today.
Mahomes,
Mahomes, what did I say?
you said Wentz.
Oh God, because I was so excited to get to this possibility of Carson Wentz playing because he is
So
their backup.
to me, I wouldn't play him this week.
I wouldn't either, but they're already Andy Reid has already come out and said if he can go, he's going.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I'm with you, but
Because they've got the short turnaround too, to because they're playing Wednesday
are they?
after this.
Oh yeah, after this, right? Yes, absolutely. No, I'm with you, but you know, I guess not how they're looking at it. I don't know, man.
They're
It's
playing Saturday and then Wednesday.
yeah, that's now the one argument on their side of it is that they have not locked up the number one seed yet. So I do see that point for sure.
Yeah, but they already proved they can go on the road and beat these teams. I would still sit them.
Yeah, you want to go to Buffalo?
I don't think that. Yeah, I mean, I guess not, but I don't know. They seem to be able to withstand doing any. Once the postseason lights hit, they're just a different team.
Well, and listen, I'm barely even agreeing with how I'm arguing here because it's just an interesting point to me. But the argument to that would be they've been a number one seed this whole run.
That's true. Well, wait, were they the number one seed last year?
Pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought they went on the road last year, which is why I was thinking that this year it won't matter if they're on the road. I'm pretty sure
Oh, maybe
they
you're
did
right.
not. They played the championship game on the road. I could be wrong.
Double checking.
Stand by, listeners. We're efforting.
Efforting. Yes, nice,
It's
nice.
my
Oh,
least favorite word.
I know, dude. I know it's very it's like yeah, it's like those corporate words that
Yes,
got
it's
invented.
an absolute corporate word.
Totally, man. Totally.
Send
Like
an email to a manager for something, and he replies efforting,
yeah,
and I just want to puke in my shirt.
I want to effort my fist up his ass.
Yeah.
And what's another good one? Oh, that's a non-starter, Craig.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm not gonna stop my fist from pummeling you in the face if you say that to me. Um, you're right. They were at Baltimore. It was the
Boom.
previous. It was the. It was the previous five that were at Arrowhead.
Right, right, right. Don't get me wrong. They've mostly been there, but last year they went to Baltimore on the road and still won.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. That's a fair point. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough call because I hear high ankle sprain and I immediately think sit him. But
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not thinking that, he can't play. I just don't want to risk it in terms of him getting injured and, missing, being out for the playoffs or something,
right, I
or
know. I
being much worse.
totally understand that 100%. Yeah, it's Yeah, it's the injury stuff, man. Football players are too tough for their own good sometimes.
But if he says he can go and he goes, I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be running around like a maniac, like Mahomes, tossing a ball left-handed as he's sprinting out of bounds.
So, do you have any numbers for this one?
Okay. There is barely anything worth mentioning. Not a single person on the Chiefs had more than 45 yards, other than Patrick Mahomes, who was 19 of 38 for 159 and two touchdowns, no interceptions, and he missed the last half of the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Their defense is the biggest thing worth mentioning. The Chiefs' defense had 5 sacks and 4 interceptions, three of Jameis and one of the three name fella. Um,
Oh,
yeah, Jameis was 16 of 25 for 146, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So that's where it gets to the point. you know, um, the only other stat of note, Jerry Jeudy, 11 catches for 108 yards. I'm very curious to see if his ascension continues with a different quarterback.
yes, that's going to be interesting now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
'Cause-
Nick Chubb. The other big thing from this is Nick Chubb is out for the rest of the year. Did you hear this?
Yes, yes.
What? How sad is that? What a bummer.
Yeah, you know what? Get healthy and be ready. Be really good to go for the start of next year.
Yeah, I didn't hear what it was. It was like a broken foot or something. It wasn't like one of the big like injuries where you're like, oh no, not that.
Yeah, no, 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 it wasn't. But it was enough to, their season's ending and they're not playing for anything. So just I think it was like a hairline fracture or something
Left,
or a
yeah,
fracture.
fracture in his left foot. There it is.
There you go.
Yeah, you're gonna have an injury. That's like on the top of the list of things. So that's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, chill out, save the legs, come back next year looking good. That's good. Okay, and that's pretty much it, man. I mean, Jacoby Ford had a big TD run, or Jerome Ford, I mean, um, and he is now a viable fantasy option for people that are still in the playoffs, especially if you're in a PPR, because they throw this guy the ball a crap ton.
Yes. And now he's got no competition.
No competition.
He's the man.
The man. That's right.
All right. Let's move on to a game we both got wrong. My second one wrong already. Um, Miami and Houston. Houston wins 20-12. We both picked Miami. And my question to you is Houston was playing so bad before the bye. Miami had been playing so well. Did Houston, with maybe some good coaching from D'Amico Ryan, which is definitely possible because I do think he's a good coach, did he coach them up a little bit on the bye and kind of righted some wrongs and get them going, kind of get them going again?
You know, I hope that's the case. However,
Because we both
this is
had high hopes for them.
absolutely. Listen, he was my coach of the year pick. There's not a chance in hell that happens now. I mean,
No.
not even close. He would. I thought this was a team that could end up with the number one seed this year, and they're obviously not that. Um, Now, did they come out of the break looking better? Well, it's debatable, man, because you look at the stats for this game. I saw the score and thought, oh, well, maybe the Texans are bad. Well, check out this total yards. Miami 224. That's pretty horrible, right?
Yeah.
Well, how about the Texans 181?
Yeah, that's all. That's just terrible.
It's brutal, dude. Joe Mixon, who was a revelation for most of this season, had. Let me find it. I wrote it down. It's right in front of my face. I just can't see it. There. 12 carries for 23 yards, Craig.
Yeah, and isn't that the second bad game in a row for him?
Yeah, it
I'm pretty
is.
sure the week before the bye he had another really bad game.
You were absolutely correct. And remember, there was a point when the Texans were run blocking well, but not, and they've been poor pass blocking all season. But there was a point where they were run blocking very well, and that seems to have gone out the window now too. So while I want to look at this as a positive for the Texans, I can't when I break down these stats, man.
Right. I'm like kind of in the middle with that. I hear what you're saying about the stats, but they still beat a Miami team that we both picked to win, and they handled them pretty. I mean, they didn't do anything on their offensive side, but neither did Miami, and that's maybe their defense is playing a little better.
Well, that's the one thing that you can lean on with this team right now is their D. The D's been pretty decent all year with a couple notable exceptions, but they've been pretty good.
And Tua had what, four turnovers?
Yeah, he had three interceptions and a fumble.
Yeah,
He threw 40 times, Craig, for only 196 yards.
yeah. That's awful.
Yeah, it's bad, real bad.
You can't do that.
No, so yeah, I don't know where I want to believe, but it's been these Texans have just been so bad all year, and it was just such an ugly game. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. I just want to give them a little credit for winning a game that I thought for sure they were going to lose.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that for sure, 100%, 100%.
I was pretty confident in the Miami pick when I made it.
Yeah, I was too. I mean, I just the Texans look so bad for the last month. And by the way, the one guy who did anything for the Texans his stat line is still so bad. He had 2 touchdowns, which is great. But Nico Collins, who one of the best receivers in football, 4 catches for 17 yards.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Well, any other numbers of note?
Nah, just I guess the only real noteworthy guy was Jonnu Smith, 9 catches for 48 yards and a touchdown. Everybody else stunk.
All right, let's move on then. I want to go to the Jets in Jacksonville,
Okay.
and finally, the Jets did what I thought they were. Who I thought they were. Where has
No,
this been?
dude, unbelievable.
And they still tried to blow it. They still almost blew it.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, it's fascinating,
How do
man.
you give them the ball back? But anyway, 32-25, the Jets win. We both got it right. You caveated your way to a win because you said if Brees Hall plays, you're going to give the Jets the win, and he did. But do you know who led the Jets in rushing yards on
Oh,
Sunday?
oh, I believe it was Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers led the Jets in rushing yards, a team
Incredible.
that has an excellent Brees Hall and a pretty good number two running back in Braylon Allen, but Aaron Rodgers leads them in rushing with about 45 yards.
Incredible.
But
Incredible.
he also threw for over three. Well, did he throw over 300? What did he throw
Just
for?
just under 289, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Incredible performance
Yep,
out of him.
that's an Aaron Rodgers line.
It is. It is.
And the Devontae Adams factor of of those two being back in sync finally took a couple weeks. But if they're back in sync and Rodgers plays the rest of the year, they're not going anywhere. But they should be able to put up some numbers the rest of the way, I think. Oh,
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, Devontae's line this week, 9 catches for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns.
yeah. And Wilson had a good
I
day
mean,
too.
yeah, he was solid. 3 catches, 56 yards and a touchdown. Nobody else caught for more than 21 yards, so they were the entire focus.
Yep.
Um, Brees Hall, who I caveated my way into success, like you said, he only had 9 carries for 30 yards. It wasn't like he was the biggest factor in them winning, but he did score the game-winning touchdown.
Yes.
But yeah, he's still dealing with that knee injury and not looking awesome. But yeah, this offense finally has come to show. Like they've looked really good the last couple of weeks, which is wild.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is like what the Jets fans were expecting all year.
Yeah, this is what everybody in that land was hoping for from not maybe if not day one by the end of the first month, you know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they did not get it until now.
So it's too
Now,
late.
do you think if they keep forget wins and losses, if they keep playing like they have the last 2 weeks for the rest of the season, do you think there's any chance Aaron Rodgers is back?
Well, if he's not back, then he's got to retire. You saying retire?
Well,
Because
there's ways around that, as we saw with
I
Tom.
know there's ways around it, but he's under contract. So if he plays next year, he's going to have to get out of that Jets contract if he doesn't want to play for the Jets. I think there is a chance that he comes back and plays for the Jets next year. I think that's the most likely outcome, actually.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? Fascinating. So, do you go through another year of Aaron Rodgers not showing up for training camp, sucking for the first 2 months, and
Well, they're going to say the sucking for the first 2 months won't happen again.
do you think he'll show up for training camp? Because that if he doesn't, it's going to happen again.
I don't think he'll. No, he won't show up for training camp.
No, I agree, and I think he prefers doing ayahuasca to showing up for training camp at this point in his career.
Well,
And
and here's another thing too is he's going to have a whole new new coaching staff and probably have to learn the new coaching staff. And without training camp, it's going to take time.
seeing from the Jets' angle, does it make sense to?
Yeah, maybe the Jets cut him,
Yeah, because that to me that's the
but
most
that's a
likely
hell of a
scenario.
cap hit. That's a $60 million cap hit.
Is it? Is you've read that? You've heard people talking about that?
I'm pretty sure if they cut him, it's 60 million.
That seems really high. I'll look into that. That's if that's the case,
Yeah,
there's not a chance in hell they're cutting him.
right. Unless of course he retires.
Right, which might be the little end around maneuver.
Right. So
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could be wrong, but I heard that number somewhere, and I'm almost positive it was. If it's not 60, it's still like ridiculously high, like too high to do it.
Yeah, no, I that I can see because that would make you would think Aaron would want. Oh, here you you were close enough, my man. 49 million,
All right, not 60, my bad. So it's
close
50
enough.
million. But yeah, 50 million is still a big hit.
That's like four good players.
Yeah, you can't do that. So I don't think they're cutting him,
That's
and
interesting.
no one's going to take the contract to trade him.
Oh, no chance.
So he's either playing for them or he's retired. Those are the two options.
Well, here's the one thing I've learned about the media in my many years of football that I'm sure you'll agree with once you hear me say it. Um, they think they can get away with being lazy in their job and not reporting uh, nuts and bolts facts about salary cap because they think they use the excuse that we don't care or wouldn't understand as fans. What it really amounts to is they don't understand jack shit when it comes to the salary cap.
Right.
So that's why every year I've heard every year for the last 10 years, Craig, that the Eagles are going to be over the cap and can't sign anybody, and every year they have somehow $50 million to spend. You know what I mean? So
Right.
um, so let's see what actually happens there because I do not trust the media on that number. If it's correct, I agree with you 1,000%.
Right. And I'm going on the assumption it is, but you're right. There could be wiggle room. There could be a clause. There could be all kinds of things.
Yeah, they wait till June 1st and it's only 13 million or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm with you. Yeah. So, but if that's a real number, forget about it. He's a Jet next year or he's retiring. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. All right. Any numbers on here? We discussed the Jets numbers. Anything from on the Jacksonville side?
I mean, Mac Jones up and down, 31 for 46, 294, but
Yeah,
two
but
touchdowns.
you can't have Mac Jones throwing 46 times. That's
No,
the problem.
no chance, dude. And two touchdowns, two picks. Um, oh, and Brian Thomas Jr., who is an absolute stud, 10 catches for 105 yards and two touchdowns.
I
Oh,
tell you what, man, the best offensive um, rookie receiver that it actually might end up being him.
that's we talked about this a month ago, and I was starting to lean that way then. And it's a tough call between him and Neighbors because Neighbors is gonna top him in catches by probably 30, but Thomas might have more yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean
So
Thomas is because in this last month we're since the first time we talked about it, he's done nothing but put up good games the whole time, all four
exactly.
games.
And he's done it with bad quarterback play from two different quarterbacks this year.
Yeah,
So
so his neighbors though.
no
To
doubt,
be
no
fair,
doubt, and yeah, no, that's absolutely for sure. Yeah, no, they've all done it with crappy quarterback play for sure.
yeah. All right, well, so the Jets were a little surprising to me that they played as well. They scored 30 points. I don't think they've done that since the Carter administration.
Since the New York Sack Exchange was doing its thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready to move on if you are.
Let's do it.
Okay, Washington at New Orleans. We said this could be a get right game. It was at first, and then New Orleans stormed back and almost got this thing. Almost came all the way back for the win. They ended up losing 20-19. Washington gets the win in a really tight one, but it started out and you thought they were going to blow them out.
Dude, they were okay. Perfectly laid out, Craig. You set this up perfectly. They were up dun, 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 17 to nothing with 8 minutes and 12 seconds left in the third quarter. Okay.
Yeah, and you know what that is? That's a young team taking their foot off the gas, saying, "Well, okay, we got this all sewn up."
No doubt. No doubt. Absolutely. And they then kicked a field goal 20-7 with 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then ding, 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 field goal for the Saints. And then they score a touchdown with no time left and go for two and miss. And that's why they lost by one.
Yeah, if they had gotten that, that would have been one of the all-time comebacks.
Oh, it would have been great as
It really would have
and
been fantastic.
I would
And
have
I love the balls. You know what? You know what? I'm seeing that more and more. More and more teams are doing that now. Especially if like their season's over, it's a bad team or whatever, like New Orleans.
mm-hmm.
And they're like, why are we going to even bother going to overtime? Let's just try to win it right here, right now. We either win it right here, we lose it right here. Either way, no overtime. Let's just do it.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's like it's become as common now as going for it on fourth and less than three.
Yeah, pretty
No.
much. Now, everybody's going for it on fourth. If you're on the you're 40 and anything closer, maybe not your 40, maybe midfield or closer, and you have a fourth in 1, 2, or 3, chances are you're going for it.
Yeah, and I'll
Every
add to
team.
what you just said. If you knock off 2 and 3 and just say fourth and one, then you can extend it back to the 40, your own 40, because I've seen it multiple times this year, multiple times.
Right, right.
It's
But
success and
if
failure.
it's fourth and 3 though, on your own 41 and yard line, I've seen a lot of people punt too.
Oh, 100%. But fourth and one, I've seen people go for it on their own 20 on fourth and one. Not
Yeah, it's
super
crazy.
common, but it does happen.
Yeah, it's crazy how that's been a distinct shift in philosophy in the going for two when you're down one or tie game or whatever the case is. You need to tie whatever the case is at the end of the game. That is becoming more and more common too.
No doubt, man. It's been fascinating to watch, and I understand it. Sometimes I think coaches take it too far, and sometimes I think it's just right. So it's an interesting thing to see.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Anything with
okay, so
numbers on this one?
yeah, so here we go with some stats. Jaden Daniels played super efficient football, 25 of 31 for 226 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. Also
That's
ran
great.
11. Dude's perfect, right? I mean, not perfect, but very good. Um, he also ran 11 times for 66 yards. So well done. I mean,
I
heck of a
think
game.
I think he's getting
Uh,
healthier. I think he's getting healthier, and we're going to see better play from him the rest of the way.
yeah. He started to look healthy a few weeks ago, a little healthier, but that bye week, I would think, kind of cleared up anything that was left, maybe. You know what I mean? And he was running the ball like a champ in this one, so I'm with you. Only other thing to note, Terry McLaurin, 7 catches, 73 yards, two touchdowns.
Scary Terry, love to see it because he's one of those guys that yeah, I don't think he gets his just dues. He's really really good, and he's been played with so many bad quarterbacks and coaches that are just not looking his way enough, and just all that stuff. And he should be elite, and he probably will never be elite again, but he's very very good still.
No, he's awesome. And yeah, you're right. And another season with Jaden Daniels, he'll get his due. Because, man, like his stats this year, I mean, I'm going to pull up real quick because I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know they're great. Like, it's wild after all this languishing. And he still put up decent numbers with. It was kind of like a DJ Moore situation where you'd be like, oh, I can't believe he put up decent. He wasn't. wasn't quite the same because he never had a 1,300-yard season like DJ Moore had 2 years ago with a crappy
Right.
quarterback. But still
Right.
pretty impressive. Dude, he has 68 catches for 969 yards and 11 touchdowns this year.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Not bad.
impressive, man. At 29 years old, by the way. Doesn't it seem like he just started?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
A-
All right. Enough
Anything for New
ruminating about
Orleans?
Terry McLaurin.
Anything on New Orleans side?
um,
Probably not, to be honest, now that I think about it.
yeah, I can't imagine. Come on. Did you see the one-handed catch Kamara made by any chance? That was a
Yes, I did.
dude. Cedric Wilson. It was a trick play. Cedric Wilson, the receiver, threw a dime. I mean, what a beautiful pass.
I think he was a high school quarterback or something.
Dude had to play quarterback somewhere along the
Yeah,
way,
I think
man.
so because he was on the Cowboys, and I think at some point he threw a pass with them too, and they mentioned he played quarterback somewhere.
Man, yeah, he must have because he was. I mean, it was a perfect. It was better than a lot of quarterback passes I've seen this year. It was beautiful. But yeah,
And Kamara got hurt though too, right?
yes, he's got a groin thing now, and I haven't heard anything definitive. But what I'm hearing is making me nervous.
Yeah, he probably. I mean, again, we're talking about a team not going anywhere. What's the point of playing him? You might as well just sit him.
Yeah, and he had a great. What a great year he had, man. People
He
were starting
really
to
did.
write.
He's the only thing they really had.
Yeah. And to do it under those, that's the most impressive part, Craig. You just hit it right on the head because he's the only thing they've had to worry about all year almost. I mean, once Olave was supposed to be his, other guy, running mate, other big weapon, but he had a bad year when he was healthy and was hurt so early. He played
Yep.
what, maybe 5 games this year, something like that. So yeah, for Kamara to have this year under those circumstances, super impressive, man. Super impressive.
Yep. All right. I think we are actually going slower than normal somehow.
Somehow we managed to do it all every
We're
time.
not even halfway through the games yet.
Oh God! Well, you know what? You know what? I didn't even think about it, but we're back to a full 16
Full slate.
games too.
That's true. But yeah, we're at a snail's pace at this point. We'll try to pick it up a little bit.
I love
Okay.
it.
Uh, Baltimore against the Giants. Baltimore does what we thought they would do, 35-14, complete dismantling. By the way, we both got that one right. We both picked Washington as well. We both picked the Jets as well. So we are on a 3-game streak for both of us
Nice.
after the Houston defeat of Miami that we got wrong. Anyway, we both had Baltimore winning pretty big. I actually had 30-13, and it was 35-14, so kind of close.
Nice.
And you had 38-12. You're right there. We were pretty much spot on with this, and 18 penalties, and Baltimore killed them by that much, and they had 12 of those 18 penalties. Baltimore did.
That's counterintuitive, but yeah, that's just how bad the Giants are, man. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they're just so bad that they can make all those mistakes and still slaughter them.
yeah. They're just completely outclassed. You got any numbers for this one?
Okay, Lamar Jackson may listen. We'll talk more about this in detail, in depth, as the other candidates' games come up. But Lamar Jackson may have re-entered the MVP with this game, with the race with this game. 21 of 25, 290, 5 touchdowns, no picks, 6 rushes for 65 yards. I mean, that's a beast of a game. It is the
That is a
Giants, but
beast of a game.
I don't care who he did it against. That's incredible. Um, a lot of people who made the fan of their fantasy playoffs based on the back of Derrick Henry are sitting out and playing golf this week instead because he went 14 for 68. Not horrible. I mean, good yards per carry, but they just didn't use them much because it was a blowout.
Yep.
Rashad Bateman. The resurrection of Rashad Bateman continues. The ghost of Rashad. 3 catches for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this
Yeah.
guy, I thought he was a complete bust. I had written him off a year and a half ago, and
I,
all of a
I
sudden
still
he's
think he
viable.
is. I mean, he has his one game, but I mean, has he been doing much all year?
Yeah, he has. Like he pops up. Let me put. It's not like, listen, he's not going to be on anybody's top 30 receivers in the NFL list by any stretch, but whereas his whole career he was almost useless, this year all of a sudden,
Okay. Okay. So instead of not being useless, he's viable. Like you said before, he's viable.
but maybe even a little more than that. He went from useless to 38 catches for 654 yards. That's 17.2 yards a catch and 7 touchdowns.
Okay. Um, I mean, 38 catches in how many games? This has been a lot of games, so that's not fantastic, but good yards per catch and decent yardage. Yeah, and decent decent touchdowns. So yeah, you got to give him his due.
Yeah, he's actually doing something, which is better than anything.
Yeah,
Like, dude, his high point in his career to this point is 515 yards.
yeah. He was like you said before. He just an absolute bust
Yep,
prior to this.
injuries, just ineffective, everything, and then all of a sudden this year it came together a little bit. So good on him. What else? Justice Hill had 5 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, 10 for 13 for 68 yards, and then got knocked out with a concussion, which brought back Tim Boyle, which I somehow missed that he was
Yeah,
back
and
in town.
I think he's gonna be the quarterback this week.
That's what I'm hearing too. I'm with you. Amazing,
I mean, wow. How does
amazing
it get
news.
any worse for them?
I can't imagine. The only way it gets worse is if the only other stat worth reading is if this guy gets hurt, and that's Malik Neighbors, who had 10 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown.
Yep. All right, I'm ready to move on.
Let's do it.
The penalties just keep. I mean, Cincinnati over Tennessee, 37-27. We got this one right as well, and this one had 26 penalties.
Dude, I like I texted you about this one because CBS's headline was Bengals Titans game sets all-time NFL record for ineptitude.
Yeah,
Because add to those 26 penalties, they combined for 10 turnovers.
just awful, awful football.
As bad as football gets.
But you know what? There was a lot of scoring, so in some ways it was still kind of fun
Yes.
because of the scoring and because of if you could just laugh at the ridiculousness of it and all the turnovers and all the flags, it was actually somewhat enjoyable on that in that aspect of it.
I'm with you.
And kind of just like a kind of a game, you
Yeah,
know?
like a Nelson.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Perfect.
yeah, um, we got this one right. Tennessee is just terrible. Cincinnati's not much better, but their offense is great.
Yeah.
Said it before. Joe Burrow would be in the MVP conversation if he wasn't. If he was on a good team. What are the numbers we got here for this?
Okay, man. Some wild ass numbers in this game. Let's start with the Titans. Let's work our way to the good stuff. First of all, Mr. Will Levis, who we have talked a lot this year. I was super hard on him early. He had a nice middle of the season run where we thought maybe he might be in contention for staying there to quarterback for the future. That is done, my man. 8 for 12, 89 yards, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, including a pick six. Got benched for Mason Rudolph and is officially benched for next week. Rudolph is your starter moving forward for the immediate future anyway.
Jeez, yeah, he's done. They're in the hunt for a quarterback now.
No doubt
Um,
about it, man. No doubt about it. That was in question as recently as 3 or 4 weeks ago, but it is not anymore.
yeah,
Um, what else is? Oh, so Rudolph, by the way, when he came in, Rudolph went 21 for 26 for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
yeah, much better.
Yeah, again, like he's right there with your guy Rush and a few others around the league for best backups in the league, in my mind.
Yep, yep. He was an NFL. He looked like an NFL quarterback.
He did, which is yes, that's a perfect way of putting it. Which puts him above a lot of people we discuss on this show.
Yeah,
Now, the only other real stat of note for the Titans is Spears. Man, Spears, who only rushed the ball 4 times for 5 yards, but did have a touchdown. But and keep this in mind moving forward in your fantasy playoffs. Ty Spears caught 6 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown, and almost all of that was after Rudolph came in the game.
wow. Okay, so maybe he'll still have that role, but I don't know what Pollard's doing.
Well, Pollard got banged, like he's been banged up and he was
Yeah,
playing
right.
through it. You know, he played, but he only had 17 carries for 45 yards. He had a touchdown. So fantasy wise, he was all right, but he only averaged 2.6 a carry. I think the wear and tear of this season's finally catching up to him a little bit. So you might have a week or two with Rudolph here where Spears, even listen, this guy can be a viable fantasy asset when he only carries the ball 4 times.
Yeah. Yep.
So, check matchups and all that. I can't think of off the top of my head, but interesting guy. Anyway, that's it for stats from them because nothing else was really worth looking at. Let's go to the Bengals. Now,
Yep.
Mr. Burrow, 26 for 37, 271 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this week. Not his best outing, but not horrendous. Um, Chase Brown, who I am full man crush mode with Chase Brown,
Yep.
25 carries, 97 yards and a touchdown. And what makes him special is he also caught 3 for 16 and another touchdown. Um, Jamar Chase, 9 catches for 94 yards. T. Higgins, 5 for 88 and a touch. T. Higgins fired his agent, hired Jamar Chase's agent. That seems like a good thing for the Bengals. We'll see where it leads.
Yes.
And I believe that's it for stats, my man. Stats of note.
All right. 26 penalties. Unreal.
Crazy.
All right.
Crazy.
Let's go to a team in the hunt here a little bit for the division. Arizona over New England, 30-17. We both got this one right as well. I had 32-20. You had 24-16. So right there. This kind of went the way I was expecting. New England is floundering. They show a couple signs here and there, and then they go right back to being just god awful again. They're back to being god awful. Arizona was at home. They're not god awful. They're still fighting for the division. I do think they're going to come up short. They're not really in that. They're just hanging on, and if they come up short, they're not going to make the playoffs at all. So they'd have to win out, and they probably would need help even if they win out. But either way, this went how we thought.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Um, and this was one of those that, even though it looks like a blowout, was even a bigger blowout. Arizona was up 23-3 with 10 minutes left, so this was an even bigger drubbing than it looks like. Um, Different classes of teams here. We've
Yep.
talked about Drake May enough this year. I'm impressed. The team sucks. Hopefully, they can give him something to work with in the offseason because I really like what I've seen from him. I think he might be the only stats of note to discuss on the Patriots. Yeah, 19 to 23 for 202 and a touchdown and a pick. Also ran 4 times for 14 yards and another touchdown. And that is it. Nobody had more than 69 yards of total offense on the entire rest of the team. Cardinals, Kyler Murray, who, again, one of the toughest guys in the league for me to figure out. 23 of 30, 224 yards, no touches and picks, but very efficient. Um,
Yep.
James Conner, one of my favorite players in the NFL. I just get it. I love this guy. 16 carries for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Still
Uh,
doing it.
Still doing it, man. And people want to write him off, myself included. I was ready to write him off a couple of years ago. But he just keeps plugging, man. Just keeps plugging. Trey McBride, 9 catches for 87 yards. His magical mystery tour of trying to get through this season with 100 catches and no touchdowns continues. Right now, let me pull it up real quick because his stats are getting to be. Remember when Keyshawn Johnson was the guy who didn't catch touchdowns?
Yes.
That was a long time ago, back when touchdowns were all that mattered in fantasy, practically, right?
Yes.
Well, Mr. McBride, shoot, pulled up the wrong thing. Bear with me 1 sec. Here we go. He now has 89 catches for 938 yards and no touchdowns
So he's going to get 1,000 yards,
this week,
possibly
probably.
possibly 100 catches. Can you imagine that? 100 catches, 1,000 yards for a tight end, and no touchdowns.
You know what? I'm going to look real quick.
I want that to happen. That would just be great.
I'm with you, man. It's like a crazy statistical anomaly. I'm going to look
Right,
real
because
quick to
by the
see.
way, the guy's good. I would be more than happy to have him on my fantasy team as my tight end.
100%.
And
I love him. He's
I'm
my.
sure next year he'll get in the end zone plenty. And that's not because touchdowns. Oh, hang on. I think I might have lost you.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
there. I got you. For some reason it was saying reconnecting, but I
Yeah,
got you now.
mine was too, but I could still hear you.
Can you hear me?
All right. So in case
Oh,
the
stinks.
viewers missed that, I was just saying that I would love to have McBride as my fantasy tight end next year because tight end touchdowns are kind of unpredictable year to year. You really don't know.
100%, dude. And check this out, brother. While our phones were being weird, I found a cool stat. So, Trey McBride holds the NFL record for most catches in a season without a touchdown already at 89.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts? It broke Deontay Johnson's previous record of 86.
Deontay Johnson. Wow, he was really good that one time.
He had a couple good years with the Steelers. I guess there was one that he had 86 catches and no touchdowns, though, that I didn't remember.
Yeah,
um,
he's kind of fallen off since then.
Big time. Well, and now they had that whole thing where he refused to go in the game about a month ago now for the Ravens, and he's never going to play for the Ravens again. Um,
Right.
and he lost a crap ton in potential free agent money by doing that.
Yes. All right.
Real quick, the the only the other people on this list that Trey McBride passed are Roger Craig at 81 catches. By the way, a running back that had 81 catches in the 80s. That's how far
Yeah.
ahead of their time the Niners were. Um,
Yep.
and Leonard Fournette, 76 catches without a touchdown.
I love Leonard from Big Lenny.
Me too, man. Me too. So
He was
anyway,
good.
that's a fun stat. Okay, we can move on, but I just had to get that out.
Okay, don't look now. Denver's won 4 in a row. 31-13, a drubbing of the Colts. Not that the Colts are that great, but they're not terrible. They're not the Raiders or the Giants.
Absolutely.
Um, and Denver just took them out. And yeah, no picks, Bo Nix. Um, they're just they're looking really good. They're getting more and more impressive every single week. Um, yeah, I can't say enough good things about them. They're just looking so good. Sean Payton is the quarterback whisperer. He struggled last year, and at times we were like, "What the hell is he doing?" Well, we should just shut our faces because he knows exactly what he's doing.
That's all. Quote of the pod. We should just shut our faces. And I agree. That was awesome. Yeah, it's what's fascinating is how two things can be true at the same time. Well, and this is what happened. Sean Payton is a great coach, and Russell Wilson can still play quarterback. But for some reason, the two of them could not coexist.
Agreed. Agreed. Yes, absolutely.
So better for both of them that they all moved on, and both of them are succeeding now. Now let me dive into some stats on this one because this is this game is very different than the score indicates. I mean, this was 13-7 Colts at halftime,
Yes.
and Bo Nix reverted back to Bo Picks because wow, listen, I love him. I think he's great and blah blah blah. He had one of his worst games since early in the year. He was 20 of 33 for 130 yards. Now he did throw 3 touchdown passes, so credit to him there, but also 3 interceptions. And it's the first time
Yeah.
he's
Not a good game.
yeah.
But
Not
the
a
thing
sing
is, he has that kind of a game, and they still win 31-13.
and that's on the strength of their defense. This defense is for real. They are now. I don't know how your league does its scoring, but in ESPN leagues, Denver is the #1 fantasy defense.
Yeah, and that's a young quarterback's best friend is a running game and a great defense.
100%. And what's even more impressive about Knicks is he's doing it without a running game.
Yeah, he
Because
doesn't even have the running game, but the defense is that good.
defense is that good. Running game stinks. Now, just check this out, dude. Their stats this week, they don't have a single offensive. Bo Nix led the team in rushing with 23 yards.
Just terrible.
Yeah. Their biggest offensive output was Cortland Sutton at 32 yards and a touchdown. So that's how good this defense is, man. So big time credit because we know that they can play better. We know Bo Nix can play better. We know, their running game is their biggest issue. They don't have a running back that they can lean on. I like some things I've seen from Jaleel McLaughlin, but he looks like a
Number two.
thank you. Yes, he looks like a Justice Hill type to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think Javonte Williams is just a guy.
Yep.
And so I think the same about Audric Estime. So they don't have their answer there right now, but they're playing well enough in other ways to make up for it. And as long as Knicks can revert back to no picks, Bo Nix, then I still think they can be a tough out in the playoffs, depending who they draw.
Yeah. And they, like I said before, they've won 4 in a row.
I know. How about that, man? How about that? That's impressive. I'm impressed by everything that has happened in Denver this year.
Yep. Me too. Anything on the Indianapolis side in terms of numbers?
Oh well, we have to give you the Anthony Richardson update because it's always fun. Uh, 17 for 38, Craig.
Not good.
172 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, that's a horrible
It is.
game.
Now, and this is why he's going to keep getting chances because he also ran the ball 7 times for 46 yards and a touchdown.
Well, yeah, I
Um,
mean, that's what yeah, exactly. He still has appeal, and he's had some decent games, bouncing back this year a little bit from where he was at the beginning of the year, where he was just awful.
yep.
Um, they got to give him the rest of this year, obviously, and they've got to give him next year too. But if he's terrible again all of next year, then they really got to start reconsidering.
I agree. I'm with you. I agree everything you just said. That you have to give him one more year. You also better like if they who's I forget who's their backup. Who was it? Is it Flacco?
It was earlier in the year. Was it still
Flacco, right?
Flacco?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, because I was flashing back to last year when Flacco had his moments for another team. But
yeah,
so they either have to keep Flacco or upgrade their. It has to be Flacco or better at backup if you're coming into the season with A Rich again. Which I would too, 100%. But man, you better be ready to have somebody that can play when you're going to have to pull the trigger at some point.
yeah.
um, and we can't get off this game, Craig. I almost forgot. This is unfreaking believable and so out of character for one of the best players in the game. Did you see what happened to Jonathan Taylor? And I'm talking to our listeners. Jonathan Taylor, when they were up 13-7 at this point, Craig, Jonathan
Yep.
Taylor busts a 41-yard, what should have been a touchdown run, and he dropped the ball before he went over the goal line in celebration.
I mean, we've seen this a number of times over the years, and I don't understand how it's even possible. If it happens once, not even to you, just in the league at any point, everybody should be on a high alert to make sure that shit doesn't happen again.
100%,
Because
man.
that's ridiculous.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And Jonathan Taylor isn't that guy. Like when Deshaun Jackson did something like that years ago, it didn't surprise me at all because he's a showboat. I loved him. He was a great player, but he's a showboat. I, you know,
He
you,
was the first one I remember doing it.
and he did it twice. He did it in college and the pros. He had one in college where he tried to dive into the end zone and he took off from like the 8-yard line and landed on the 3. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. If anybody out there hasn't seen it, look it up. It's awesome. But yeah, you expect it from a guy like Deshaun Jackson. Jonathan Taylor's never done anything like that anywhere at any level, and he was the one thing I'll give him credit for. And it's stupid, it sucks, it was dumb, but he owned up to it like a man after the game. I will say he was getting hammered
Yes.
by the press, and every time he did, he took it. He said, "You're right. I was wrong. This will never happen again. It shouldn't happen this time." He said everything right you could possibly say. It just sucks it happened.
Wow.
Ugh, brutal, dude. They would have been up 20-7, Craig. It's a whole different game.
Yeah, they might have pulled that one off, but
Might
Denver
have.
then Denver then put it on them.
Yep. Fascinating. So yeah, only other stat worth a note in the whole game: Michael Pittman 6 catches for 58 yards. Nobody else did anything
All
on
right.
that team.
Okay, let's go to probably the game of the week. Um, Fun game, real fun. Buffalo against Detroit. In Detroit, and Buffalo gets the win, 48-42. High scoring game of the year, I'm sure. And
Oh yeah.
we both got it wrong. We both picked Detroit, but this is more about moving forward. That the concern really is there for Detroit now. They cannot catch a break with anything. Anyway, they can't catch a break like no one I've never ever seen. I mean, they just keep getting more and more injuries. Now Montgomery's out for the year. I mean, these are big injuries and they just are piling up. And now I'm thinking it's you guys, the Birds. You guys got the path now to the Super Bowl. I don't think Detroit's going to be able to hang. I think you got to make Philadelphia the favorite, the leader in the clubhouse for the NFC to go to the Super Bowl because Detroit full strength. I would pick them, but they're not. They're not even close to full strength, and who knows what other injuries they're going to have? They keep getting more and more.
Listen, I'm with you, man. And it's funny because I actually have that's one of the true and falses I have because I'm generally slow. Well, especially after last year, I was slow to anoint anything about the Eagles this year. Um, until there was a lot of prove it, and they've done a lot of proving it. But even as much a factor is the Lions are just decimated, man. And let me say this: this is a huge credit to Dan Campbell and that entire organization because who else has the same amount of injuries, Craig, that we've talked about a lot this year and has
San,
fallen in the shitter?
San Francisco.
Boom. That's a team that is like a glass China doll that if their perfect toys get messed up, they suck. Detroit is now missing something insane like 12 dudes and they just keep on winning. You know what I mean? Now they lose to the Bills in like 48-42 game, but they played very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I don't nothing other than the fact that like you said moving forward we have to account for these injuries. I didn't lose any respect for them in this game or anything at all. So yeah, it's
no,
fascinating, man.
yep.
Fascinating.
And by the way, you mentioned earlier that Lamar Jackson put himself back in the MVP race. Well, Josh Allen didn't do anything to remove himself. That's for sure.
No, Josh Allen is still number one by far with a bullet, and they have the record. He hasn't had a bad game in a while. You know what I mean? So he's got everything going for him. We'll get to the Eagles in a minute here, but Barkley didn't have a game that kept him in the race this week. So Lamar might have vaulted up above Barkley again, frankly. But it's Josh's to lose. He's going to have a couple real bad games or just a couple 107-yard games or something for somebody else to get back in this.
Yeah. Real quick, you want to go over his numbers, or just
Yeah,
go over Buffalo's numbers in general?
you got it. So Josh Allen, 23 for 34, 362 yards, two touchdowns, zero interceptions. Also, 11 rushes for 68 yards and two more touchdowns.
Oh my
Insane.
God.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, this is becoming like the norm from him over the last month. It's
Yeah,
just
just just we're gonna get 4 touchdowns every week.
yeah, yeah.
About 400 yards.
Unbelievable, dude. So, and then James Cook, 14 carries for 105 yards and two touchdowns. Ty Johnson, their backup running back, had 5 catches for 114 yards.
Wow.
That's an interesting one. And that's pretty much it. Nothing else spectacular on their side. Speaking of spectacular quarterback performances, Jared Goff for the Lions,
Yeah,
38 of 59 for 494 yards and 5 touchdowns and no interceptions.
500 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Incredible, dude. Incredible. That's bonkers. That's just
They
insane.
came
Insane.
close to they came close to a combined 1,000 yards in this game.
Yes, yes, they really did. They really
I think
did.
they were
It was
over
an
900. That's for
unbelievable
sure.
offensive output. Unbelievable offensive output. A couple other stats worth mentioning. Jahmyr Gibbs went 8 rushes for 31 yards and a touch, but also 5 catches for 62 yards and a touch. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 14 catches for 193 yards and a touchdown. Sam Laporta, who has finally come back to life in the last month after being just a massive disappointment this year, 7 catches for 111 yards. And I'm only going to read these stats because unfortunately it's the last stats we're going to hear from him this season, and it's sad. David Montgomery, 5 carries for 4 yards, 4 catches for 31 yards, and he is out for the year.
Yeah, and that's a big blow. They love their two running back attack. And Gibbs, I think if they really give him the bulk of the carries, I think he'll be able to handle it. But I know
Yeah.
they love Montgomery and what he brought to them. Now they just got to lean more on Gibbs. I think he could do it, but still, it's a big loss. Big loss.
I com- I completely agree. Everything you said. Gibbs is great. They'll be okay, but they'd be better with the other great player too. So now add to all that they lost three other starters or major contributors, like guys that are heavy rotation in the D line, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, um, in the same game, and they were already missing nine or so. Yeah, I don't know the number, but it's an insane amount
I
of starters. They lost.
I mean, at this point, the injuries to them is just getting stupid. Like, this is ridiculous.
It's crazy. They lost a defensive tackle, Alan McNeil, Carlton Davis, their cornerback, who was a big addition. I think that was last offseason. They got him from Tampa Bay, and Dorsey. They lost two, and I've talked about how their cornerback play has not been stellar anyway, and they lost two more cornerbacks in this game.
I mean, jeez.
Yeah. So whoever Detroit's playing this week, if you might want to start the opposing team's quarterback in your fantasy roster because they are decimated, dude.
No, you don't. You don't want to do that.
Oh God, who is it? Tommy
It
Cutlets?
no, it's Caleb Williams.
Oh, good Lord, no! I would, even having said that, no. You have to be able to complete a pass to an open wide receiver to take advantage of that.
So anyway, um, this was fun. This game was a lot of fun. It was a blast, and
Fun,
you
super
know,
fun.
Detroit was trailing pretty much the whole game, but they kept hanging around. They kept staying in it, and they stayed in it right to the end. And it was really good. And these guys, they just up and down the field. And I don't even really put it too much on the defenses for playing poorly. I just think both of these offenses, when they get humming, I don't care who they play against, they're going to score. And
Yeah,
both of these offenses were humming.
dude. These are two of the best offenses in football, no doubt about it. They are super impressive, and they don't have glaring weaknesses. Like, you're not like, oh, well, this is great, but their offensive line is weak, or this is great, but they don't have a good running back. They all, even with the loss of Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs is still a top 10 running back in this league, easily to me. Um, Cook is, a very good running back, just a little behind Gibbs, I would say, maybe, but right in the same conversation. They both have top notch. Detroit has an insane receiving core.
Yep.
Bills is finally good. By the way, Josh Allen did all that this week. You know what Amari Cooper's stat line was?
Nothing, right? He didn't
Zero
do.
for zero.
Yeah.
0 for 0. He did all that without a single contribution from Amari Cooper, which is just fascinating. Like, one of the most up and down receivers in the history of the NFL continues to do his thing.
So what other numbers for Buffalo and Detroit for receivers and stuff? Did we
Okay,
go? Did we
so
go over? Yeah.
for there, it was oddly enough there weren't massive numbers on the Bills from receivers. You had like I mentioned, Ty Johnson, the running back, had 5 catches for 114 yards. Dalton Kincaid 4 for 53. Shakir had 6 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. And Keon Coleman came back from like a month or so with an injury issue, had 1 catch for 52 yards and a touchdown. So it was kind of a weird stat clustering, but it got the job done. And it's what that Bills team has become, this wide array of
Yeah.
solid, if not spectacular, weapons. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. And
And
he's
then
getting the ball to all of them.
yeah, man. Yeah, he really is. He really is. It's been really neat to watch. Um, and then yeah, the only two real stat lines of note on the Lions were the ones I read: Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams got in the end zone also, but didn't have massive numbers.
Okay. All right. We're at an hour and 18, and we got 5 games to go. So I'm going to move on to the next one, if that's all right with you.
Let's
Go
do it.
to Tampa Bay over the Chargers. Wow, 40 to
We got this
17.
one wrong.
We both picked the
Yeah.
Chargers. Tampa Bay just whooped up on them. Um, surprising is the word to describe this one. Not that Tampa Bay won, but by the manner in which they won, how much they won by. Uh, is this just a bad game for the Chargers, or is this a foreshadowing of things to come? What's your take on that?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure of the answer, but there is one really concerning thing going on with the Chargers that I want to bring up for sure. We talked about it a little bit last week, but it needs to be pounded home. They are not the same team without J.K. Dobbins. They need
Yes, and
a
they've lost two in a
real
row now.
two in a row, both of them without J.K. They this is what they got from their running back this week. Their running back position this week, Craig. Gus Edwards, 8 carries for 23 yards. Kamani Vidal, the rookie, or I don't know how do you say his first name, Vidal, 3 carries for 9 yards. So they got 11 carries for 32 yards from their running back position. That is
Yeah.
going to kill them the way they want to play football. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And by the way, that is not a stat line that came about because this was a blowout, because it was 17-13 Chargers at halftime.
Right. So yeah, what are they doing?
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so yeah, this was a stunner to me, man. Like, I listen. I agree with everything you said. It doesn't surprise me that the Buccaneers beat the Chargers, but to blow them out stunned the hell out of me. And just to put up 40 points on them, by the way, I didn't even check. Let me
Yeah.
do that right now because that might have knocked the Chargers out of first place finally in points allowed.
Yeah, because that's another thing about
Um,
this game was the Chargers defense has been really good about preventing points this year, like the best in the
exactly.
league. I mean, there's other
Exactly.
categories like yards and things like that, but in terms of just giving up points, they don't do that.
No, and they were the best at it by a good margin for the whole season until this week. Let's see where that put them. They might still be in the lead, but they had to take a hit big time.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. We got to
Oh,
move
that's
on
the,
to Tampa when you get it, when you get this number.
you got it. I almost had a heart attack because it said the Giants, but then I realized I was looking at offense points.
Ah,
Here we go. Points per game. Oh, dude. Oh my God. Wow. Check this out, dude. That's something else. After last week, there are now 3 teams tied at 17.6 points allowed per game. One of them is
wow.
the Chargers. You want to take a guess at the other two?
I'll say your Eagles
That is correct.
and the Chiefs.
Shoot.
Uh,
I lost you for a
um,
sec there, Craig. I heard
I
that
said
you
the Chiefs.
guessed the Eagles and that. Oh, okay. No. Good guess because they are fifth at 18.5 behind the cluster of 3 teams and then one other team. But it is the Denver Broncos.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And then the Vikings and then the Chiefs.
All right. So what do we
Cool.
got for some numbers from Tampa? Put up 40 points.
Okay. Baker Mayfield, 22 of 27, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, even ran the ball twice for 25 yards. Um, Bucky Irving came back and played this game and played well, 15 carries for 117 yards. Rashad White also played well, 15 carries for 64, 2 catches for 17 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans. Don't sleep on Mike Evans. 9 catches for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Jeez.
Yeah, man. The rookie Jalen McMillan had a nice game, 5 catches for 75 yards and a touch. And there's your big stats from
So they
Tampa.
ran the ball
Moving
something
over.
like 35 times, right?
Yeah, just between Rashad and Bucky alone, they ran at 30.
So they just ran it down the Chargers' throats.
Once they got that lead in the second half, absolutely. Which is
Wow.
unusual because again, the Chargers are better. Their run defense is significantly better than their pass. Not significantly, but it's very good. Put it that way.
We'll have to see
Um,
where they go from here because that's they're going to be one of the teams to really keep an eye on moving forward. I think because they're probably going to make the playoffs, or they're right there anyway. And
yeah.
this is this is a concerning trend the last couple of games here. I want to see where they go. But
I
anyway,
listen.
go ahead.
No, please. I was just going to say I'm 100% with you.
Yep, yep. So
All
the
right.
Chargers didn't have any big numbers or no?
Uh, no. Justin Herbert went 21 of 33 for 195, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Lad McConkey was the only one to note, or no, actually one other guy. Lad was 5 for 58 and a touch. Quentin Johnson 4 for 45 and a touch. And Stone Smart, by the way, continues to be a thing. 5 for 51.
So yeah, some of my favorites are in there. Bucky Irving, one of my favorites, and
Me
Lad
too.
McConkey,
Same. Right there with you.
both of them. But let's move on to your game.
Oh, here we
By the
go.
way, we both got that one wrong, and we both got the Buffalo Detroit game wrong. So
Yes.
we're on a 2-game losing streak.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Philadelphia handles the Steelers 27-13. I said it before. I have them as the favorite to go to the Super Bowl now. I think Green Bay, not Detroit, will give them the hardest game and has a real possibility of maybe beating them. But I think Detroit won't be able to contend anymore. Won't be able to hang with all these injuries, which is kind of sad because I want them to. I know you want your Eagles, but in terms of just the Lions, they've never won the Super Bowl. This was kind of their year to do it, and they just got completely friggin' screwed over with all these injuries, and it really sucks. You want even as a fan of the opposite team, I would be saying I want to beat them at their best. Like I want to win that game with no doubts. No one saying yeah, but they were all hurt. Stuff like that. But
I'm
that's
with you
sadly the
100%.
case. That's sadly the case. But anyway, I have the Eagles now as the favorite to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. It would be really, hopefully they will do meet Green Bay in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens there. That will be a lot of fun. And Pittsburgh, I don't really, bring them down too much. Tough game in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's playing as good as anybody, or the best probably of anybody, and they're on this ridiculous winning streak. I don't really dock Pittsburgh too much in my mind. I assume they'll be right back to normal next week, and the Eagles just keep flying high.
I'll tell you, man. Like I have tried to hold my excitement in check for most of this season, but I'm done. Like this team is great, and they have not. There's nothing that disappointed me in any way about this game. They just played awesome. I mean, it's so funny because they're Brandon Graham got a little loose at a radio show and caused a little bit of a stir last week, and boy, did they shut that up instantly. Um, it was like they came out and they just said, "All right, well, we'll throw the ball this week." And Jalen Hurts went 25 of 32 for 290 yards, two touchdowns, no interceptions, ran the ball 15 times for 45 yards and a touchdown. Um, the two receivers, AJ Brown, 8 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 11 for 109 and a touchdown. Um, Barkley, and I want to hit the MVP conversation just for a brief sidetrack here. Barkley, 19 carries for 65 yards. Not his best game. Not a game that was going to keep him in the MVP discussion after the game Josh Allen had for sure. Something weird would have to happen now for Barkley to win the MVP.
Agreed.
He'd
Um,
have to have another 200-yard game, and Josh Allen would have to have a stinker or two or three.
yeah, but you know what?
um,
That's all possible. Anyway,
It
continue.
is. It is. It's not over, but it's just a lot. It looks a lot less likely after this week for sure. Couple things about this. My favorite stat from this game. I don't know if you saw the time of possession in this game, Craig. And this is Pittsburgh had the league best time of possession coming into this game at 32 minutes and 29 seconds per game. They held the ball for 20 minutes and 8 seconds in this game to Eagles 39 minutes and 52 seconds.
Crazy.
And, yeah. And the last drive of the game for the Eagles was 20. Wait, dang it. I had it pulled up and I clicked it off by accident. I'll see if I can find it while I'm talking about something else. But just it was about as perfect a game as you could ask for from the Eagles, honestly. And here's what was a little scary for the Steelers is their offense. Now, listen, the Eagles have a great D, so it's not I'm not shaming them or anything, but their offense really suffered without for 2 weeks now in a row without Pickens.
Yeah, that's a big problem. And once Najee Harris fumbled that ball, that game turned, and that was it. The Eagles took off from there.
Dude,
Um,
it was
that was a
absolutely,
huge fumble. That was the turning point of the game.
absolutely, absolutely. And I found the stats on the drive, thank goodness, because I didn't want to go without talking about this one. This is the last drive of the game, Craig. 21 plays, 10 and a half minutes that started on their own 2 yard line
Yep,
and ended up with them clocking the ball at the Steelers 9.
and that's how you finish. That's how you finish games.
That's how they are
That's
a
how you
very
close it
good
out.
finisher. Yeah, they really know. They don't know much about starting fast, but boy, do they know how to finish.
Yes. And if you're going to do just one or the other, then that's the one you want to do.
I'm right there with you. Listen. Chip Kelly had a lot of teams that started fast and sucked in the third, fourth quarter. So I'll take this every day.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and it's not
uh,
like they suck in the first half. They're just not nearly as good as they are in the second half.
yeah, right. Exactly. Couple other things to note here. I don't think this is any great news, but like I said, I've been reluctant to get too excited this year because of last year. But I'm officially excited. I'm officially ready to say this is Eagles defense is great, not just good, not just up and coming. They are officially right now great.
I would have to agree. The numbers support it. There's nothing that would say otherwise. I totally agree.
And I can't believe I'm saying that, Craig, from where we were in week 4. So that's a Vic Fangio is the man. I'm considering getting him a Christmas present. I might send him some bologna this year.
Well, he deserves it.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. So
Yeah. You got a lot to be excited about. Now I'm gonna move on, if you're ready, to a game that I think might be the most impressive of the week to me.
mhm.
Green Bay, the team we were just talking about, who I think could be a viable threat to the Eagles. I don't think you'd have fun in that game at all. I'm sure that would be a stressful game. I still think you Eagles would probably pull it out, but I don't think it'd be any fun at all for you to enjoy. Um,
No,
if you're like
wouldn't
me,
look
if you're
forward to
like
that as
me,
a. Go ahead. Sorry, my man. Sorry, I was
yeah,
just
yeah,
agreeing
yeah. I
with
was
you.
just
Sorry.
saying, if you're like me, you don't really even enjoy some of these games sometimes because they're so damn stressful.
No doubt. No doubt.
But anyway, Green Bay goes into Seattle on the road, a Seattle team that we thought was resurgent. We thought was back to what we thought they were at the beginning of the year. They were playing well, and they get just trucked, just 30-13. Green Bay over Seattle. They are rolling.
Super impressive, man. Because Seattle had just come off of winning. What was it? 4 in a row, right?
I think so.
I mean, and they had them at home. I mean, they had everything they wanted, you know, and they got trounced, absolutely trounced. There are games this week that looked big in the end that were actually pretty close at a certain point. This was not one of them. This was a complete annihilation.
Yeah, I mean Detroit handled them, got them both times this year, and they just beat them just a couple weeks ago. But other than that, they've been rolling pretty good, and they looked fantastic in this game. They looked like they might be ready to peak at the perfect time.
Yeah, man, they are to me. They might be they're the second best team in the NFC right now.
Yeah, yeah, I agree because I think Detroit you got to put them at number three because of the injuries.
Yep. And again, maybe I'm still not giving enough credit to the Vikings, who we'll get to soon enough. But yeah, that's how I feel about it
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, I still put Green Bay over them, and you're right. We shouldn't put. We should have Minnesota right there.
I know, man. We're gonna,
They're this
we're
was
gonna,
like to be honest, like right neck and neck with the Eagles. But anyway, we'll get to that in a
yeah,
second.
yes.
um, but yeah, let's throw some numbers at the people here. I mean, like you said, this was not close, and this was surprising. And they also have the injury now to Geno Smith. Do we know his status?
Gino, we don't. It sounds like there's hope that he might play, but nothing definitive or even close that I saw so far. It did
Okay,
not look good when he went. It was like it looked like one of those scary ones. So hopefully he's all right. But it didn't. The worst news did not come out. So it sounds like he might play. Um, boy,
because
and
they need him. They need him.
Cole, how and Sam Howell was awful off the
Yep.
bench. Dude, his stats 5 of 14 for 24 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick.
Yeah, he's not. It's not acceptable. He's not in the Cooper Rush territory.
No, he is so wildly like Sam Howell's too erratic to be a good backup. He's going to have to be the only chance he had in the NFL was to be a starter, and he might have gotten his only shot already. But if he gets another shot, that's I'd be very surprised if he ever becomes a capable backup because he's so erratic.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, I'll give you some stats real quick. We got from the Packers, Jordan Love, super efficient, 20 of 27, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Josh Jacobs continues to be awesome, 26 carries for 94 yards and a touch, 4 catches for 42 yards.
Yep.
Romeo Doubs, 3 catches for 40 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Christian Watson, who I get a kick out of. This dude made an insane catch in this play, or in this game, I mean. Unbelievable catch.
I saw it. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Total insane. He also let an easy pass right in his face go right through his hands. So
Right. Yeah. I
he's
mean,
a
of
he's
course.
a he's a fascinating guy, man. He really is. It's like they found another Marquez Valdez Scantling, but more talented.
I agree.
What else? Oh, their defense: 7 sacks and 2 picks. Very nice
Yeah.
against a good team. That's
Y-
impressive, man.
Yep. On the road.
Um, yeah, absolutely. Gino, while he was in, 15 for 19 for 49 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Zach Charbonnet, he was good, but they didn't get to use him much because they were behind so far. 8 rushes for 54 yards and a touch. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, 10 catches for 83 yards.
Yep. Yep. They went to him a lot. He's becoming like their number one.
It's official. It's official. And I can't believe it because DK Metcalf was killing it earlier this year, and then he got hurt. And while he was hurt, Smith and Jigba took over.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like DK's bad now, but he's not what he was through week 7.
Totally agree. Okay. On to Minnesota. 19 penalties in this one, by the way. Minnesota over Chicago, 30-12.
This game sucked.
Game kind of sucked. But Minnesota just keeps winning, and we keep saying they're the third best team in the NFC, but the record says they're the best team in the NFC, or tied for the best team in the
Yeah,
NFC.
they're tied with 2 other teams. Yeah, I am so torn here, man. Like, I just don't know. I don't know what to do with this team. I mean, it's going to work itself out in the end, so no matter what we say about it. But I just don't know what to make of them. Like, say, listen, okay. So I think I am convinced, and I think you're close, if not convinced, like me, that the only real issue that we have with the Vikings is Sam Darnold because their defense is excellent. Defense is a top 5 D. Their receivers are insane. The running back's very good. Their offensive line is good. So what the hell's the problem? It's Sam Darnold. Unless you hate the coach, which I don't think poorly or that highly of him. I don't. He's not a guy that's heavy on my radar. So there it is. Sam Darnold. Now this week they win 30-12. Sam Darnold 24 for 40, 231, a touch and a pick. Super mediocre.
Yeah, but they
So
win
again, so
30
it's
to
not like,
12.
oh well, Darnold played awesome. I can eliminate my concern now. You know what I mean?
No, but they win 30-12. They keep getting it done.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I mean, I think I'm maybe more likely to pick them in the rest of these games the rest of the way. But I got to see better games from Sam, and let's see what happens in the playoffs. They're going to be a very, very interesting team in the playoffs.
No doubt, man. I'm fascinated. Listen, they could grab this number 1 seed now too,
Yeah,
with the
that's
Lions hurting
another
the way they
thing.
are.
They could get the bye if the Eagles trip up once and they win out. Would they? I think they would get the bye, or no? The Detroit would have to. Detroit. Well,
Detroit has to lose, yeah, because well, at least I know Detroit had the tiebreaker over the Eagles, but I don't know if they have it over Minnesota. I honestly don't know.
they would have had to play them, right?
Let's see here.
They're in the division.
Let's find out I can't remember if they played already and what happened if they did. Well, they play them in week 18, so they must have played them once. Where is it? Vikings.
I'm looking
Oh,
too.
I'm not seeing it, but I know it's here. There it is. Oh no.
They play them
Oh,
in. They play them in Detroit week 18, which means they played in Minnesota, and I bet you Detroit won.
here it is. Lions won October 20th, 31-29.
So yeah, super close game, and they were on the. Well, they was in Minnesota, but still, they're right there. We should have more respect for them.
I
But
know.
if they win that week 18 game, that would give Detroit another loss because obviously they're playing Detroit. And if the Eagles trip up once, they have the number one seed, and we don't think they're even in the top three in their conference.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? Yeah.
But by
I don't know,
then,
man.
we
I
would
don't know what
have
to make
to
of them.
accept it.
Say it again.
I said by then we would have to accept it.
Yeah, right. Man. Oh,
Oh, tough, tough.
wow. Yeah, they're mystifying. All right, let me throw you some stats on this one because I don't know what to say about the Vikings. I just can't figure them out, man. Caleb Williams. I mean, I watched this game and he looked awful, awful. Now the stats don't look that bad, but he looked bad to me. 18-31 for 191 yards and a touchdown. No interceptions. Um, DeAndre Swift ran 19 times for 79 yards, and Keenan Allen caught 6 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. They also used DJ Moore out of the backfield, like straight up as a running back 3 times, which was interesting to me. Just like not even
Interesting.
like yeah, it wasn't like gimmick plays. It was like just handing him the ball as a running back. It was interesting, and he averaged 8 yards a carry, so it worked. um, and Vikings, real quick, I mentioned Darnold's stats. We also had Aaron Jones, 18 for 86 and a touchdown. Um, Justin Jefferson, 7 catches for 73 and a touch. Addison, 7 for 63. Hawkinson, 5 for 52. Solid. That's a great trio they have. Really is in the receiving core.
And
Now that
Chicago's,
Hawkinson's healthy.
Chicago's done.
Yeah, they're toast, dude. I mean, they're eliminated from the playoffs a couple weeks now, and they're just hoping they get a good coach on this next run because something's got to get figured out.
Yeah. Okay. Probably the worst game. This is just awful. Atlanta over Vegas, 15-9.
Brutal,
I
dude.
mean, can you think of a worse, more depressing, awful score? 15-9. Oh, that just
Brutal.
screams absolute brutal game, awful game.
Awful, awful,
Actually, you
awful.
think about the week started with a 12-6 game and ended with a 15-9 game.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I'll tell you what, at least the 12-6 game in the beginning, that started the week had weather excuse. These guys had no excuse, even though it was horrible on their part too. These guys had good weather. They were freaking playing in Vegas.
I tell you, Atlanta has a Kirk Cousins problem.
Well,
They
dude,
officially have a Kirk Cousins problem. This is really an issue. They might be forced to go to Penix.
well, they do not have a Kirk Cousins problem anymore, my friend, because they officially announced right before we went on air he is out. Penix is starting this week.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, that's
Good
yeah.
move because they can't put up with this. They're going to be, they got a chance to be in the playoffs. Well, with Tampa winning and them losing, they got a chance anyway to be in the playoffs. They got to win these games. These are too important. And he is playing the worst I've ever seen him play.
It's crazy, man. Like this ride from Kirk Cousins getting signed in Atlanta to where we are today has been nothing short of astonishing and mind bending. First of all, I would have thought Kirk Cousins was going to be their quarterback for at least 2 seasons before he even considered anything. Like maybe they draft us a guy next year to become as Kirk is now 35 or whatever. Maybe they draft his eventual replacement in year 2 of his contract, maybe even year 3. Then they take Penix with the number 8 pick this year, surprise everybody, and are universally destroyed for it, including us. And now, all of a sudden, it's one of the best moves anybody ever made because Cousins has turned into a pumpkin. I mean, we know what he is. He's been in the league for 12 years or something. And now all of a sudden he stinks. I don't get it. It's the weirdest thing, one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in this league. And what a fascinating way to end up where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, give his pathetic numbers.
You got it. Okay. So, Mr. Cousins, 11 for 17, 112 yards, touchdown, one interception.
He just putrid, just awful.
And by the way, he is tied for the league lead, or has the league lead, or is tied for the league lead in interceptions for the season at 16. And I'll give you his full season stats here in a second. Here we go. He has thrown for 3,500 yards, 66.9% completion percentage. All that looks nice. But 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. I mean, that's just
Just not
awful.
getting it done. Not getting it done.
No, no. And he has weapons. Like, this is a good team with good weapons. So it's not like he's forcing the ball to crappy receivers. You know what I mean?
What did Bijan do for this game? He had a decent game,
Bijan
right?
was he was great, man. 22 for 125 yards.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, he was everything you want him to be. Drake London had 3 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. Nobody else did anything. Um, the Falcons had a safety in this game, by the way, which is how we got to 15. It wasn't 5 field goals. It would have been 13-9 without the safety. And just one of the ugliest games, ever. Um Wait, let me make sure I'm right about that real quick. I think it was 15-3 at one point. Yeah, it was 15-3 with 13 minutes left in this game.
Wow. Wow.
And by the way, Desmond Ritter comes off the bench and destroys Brock Bowers' fantasy owners.
Yeah, I know. He's going to be the guy, right?
Well, they are saying now that Aiden O'Connell has a chance to play this week.
Yeah.
He's officially
Yeah.
questionable, and he will be the guy if he can play.
I hope so, just for Bauer's sake.
Dude, me too, because I've got him on 3 fantasy teams, and I managed not to lose with with him on those teams, but he only had like 5 points, so it was tough for a guy who'd been averaging like 15, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. He's been great.
Yeah, he's been everything you want him to be. It's him with young tight ends. It's him and the guy from the Cardinals who I'm blanking on right now,
McBride. McBride.
McBride. Yeah, it's those two. Leading the charge into the next generation here, man.
Totally agree. So on the week, I went 12-4. You got a game back. You went 13-3 because me
Okay.
going against my own team and not picking the Cowboys.
Yeah, right on.
And 144-12 gives me 156-68, and you are 159-65.
Okay, all right, not bad. We're doing all right. Like you said, we've had some good weeks lately.
Yeah, we have, but we try to keep it short. We're at an hour and 46.
It never
So
works, Greg.
I know I want to thank the listeners for tuning in and sticking with us. Don't forget about the week 16 preview show. That'll be next. That's the next show that we're going to have. And that one, I promise, usually is a lot shorter. And since I promised it now, I'm going to make sure it's shorter. We're going to try to stay under
Well,
about an hour.
unless we add another 35-minute baseball free agency tangent, which I loved.
Uh, right. Okay. So the football content will be an hour.
There we go, my man.
Maybe even a little
Perfect,
less. We'll see. We'll see.
perfect. I love it.
Okay. So, having said all that, Al, I'm going to catch you on that preview show. All the listeners, once again, thank you, and until next time, I will see you later.